Welcome back to the garage, everyone. We're back at it. Back to the 2024/Trail Hero prep for this Jeep. And I just got to get some stuff done on it because I want it to be ready for this wheeling season so I can get back to work on that one. I just need to get the stuff knocked off my list so I'm not worried about this and not rushing last minute. And then I can really focus on working on that YJ, hopefully for the rest of the year. This YJ. I love it. It works great, but there are a few things with it that need kind of improved on to just make it work better. One of them is traction. So the few times I had this out at the end of the year last year, I struggled getting over some obstacles because there was no locker in the rear of this. But it has a limited slip differential, and it don't do crap. So it's pretty much just an open axle. That limited slip did nothing for me last year, and we need to fix that. Now, there's a couple ways. I could buy a locker. There's air lockers, e-lockers actually. I had a line on an e-locker, but due to funding, I could not get it. So, with that being said, try to save money here and do what I can to get this locked, and that is to use that guy and weld it up. So, I've never torn apart I've never actually really taken the gear set out of an axle. So this is a new adventure for me, especially when we're talking 1-ton stuff. So this is not going to be a how-to. This is going to be you guys hang out with me and let's get into it and try to get the gear set or the carrier out of there and then figure out how to weld this limited slip. There's a few videos online, so I'm going to see what I can do. All right, do it. All right, everything is pretty much drained, and this is how we're looking. So, from what I've watched, it's important to mark and annotate. I think these are bearing caps. I don't know. Roast me in the comments for not knowing what I'm doing, but I'm gonna call them bearing caps because I think that's what they're called. From what I've seen, it's important to mark them. Tops, bottoms, and left and right. So I just did a little dash, and then out on the housing I did a dash, and on the passenger side I did 2 dashes in there, and then it has a 47 stamped in it, and this one has a 53 stamped in it, so I just marked them on the housing as well just to help me when I put it back together. So I'm not changing anything or re-gearing, so it's already set up, shimmed, and whatnot, so I should be able just to pull it, weld it, make sure it's clean, put it back in. So that's the goal. But all right, let's try to get this sucker out of here. Okay, I'm struggling with getting this carrier out. I just looked on YouTube and there's a trick about putting a rag there and twisting the drive shaft and it forcing the rag back between the pinion and the ring and it kind of creating outward pressure. Don't know if it works, but figured I would film in case it does. Okay, there goes the rag. Okay, well, it's definitely jammed in there. I think this rag trick actually works. So, have the rag there. spin the drive shaft, let it suck the rag in. It gets tight against the pinion. Then I shove my pry bar here in the drive shaft for extra leverage and force it in between the ring and pinion. And I have the bearing caps loosely on here, and I can see it getting closer to the cap. Okay, so the rag's made it all the way around and is shredded to hell, but it's freaking loose. The rag trick works. All right. Oh, I just felt movement. Ooh, oh yeah. Okay, it's free. It's free, it's heavy, it's free and heavy. Don't drop it or pinch my fingers. And it's slippy. Okay. Woo. Okay, the freaking rag trick worked. That was awesome. All right, so I'm trying to stay organized. I got passenger, obviously, driver. So anything that came off of that each side of the axle, I have it kind of labeled here. And now we have our carrier. So, I've never actually welded a diff before, and I know a limited slip is even more different. So, as you can see, here's the clutch packs here for the limited slip, and then in there are spider gears. So that's what we're going to weld together. So we have our, our bottom and then our sides. You can't see in there right now. So everything that I've researched about welding these is the best bet is to tack the gears together while this case is still bolted together. That way it sets the preload or keeps the preload, or I don't know, words that I don't know what they mean. So I gotta clean all this with brake cleaner. And again, when you're welding, you want non-chlorinated brake cleaner. Now I gotta figure this out. Get this clean, start getting some tacks in here, get the case pulled apart, then really weld up the gears. Put it all back together, put it back in the Jeep. Too easy, right? All right. Weld again. Yes. That was dumb. Bag's on fire. Note to self, brake cleaner soaks into the rags, flame, fire, smoke. God, I'm dumb. Now that I have smoked myself out, let's try to dry off the remaining brake cleaner. Okay, I think I have it clean enough to get at least a tack on there. So, I'm gonna see if I can show you guys down in here. right where the tip of my finger is. I'm going to try to get a tack there. That's going to weld this side gear to the bottom gear. There's 3 access holes, so I'm going to try to do a tack on each side gear and to each bottom and top. So it'd be what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 tacks per each hole. So should be about 12 tacks. And then let that cool, and then I'll be able to pull that apart. So that's where we're at. Nope. Get in there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I got, like I said before, I got tacks, 2 on the bottom gear, 2 on the top gear for each spider gear. So I am 99% confident that when I undo these bolts and split this carrier housing, that all those gears will be exactly where they are currently. So yeah, we're gonna cool this down. Then we'll start tearing it apart and see what happened inside. There's definitely some slag that kind of bounced around because oil's starting to pool out from the heat. So we'll see what it looks like in there, but we're stuck together at least. If anybody's curious, at least for me, these bolts 14 millimeter. Okay, well. I know these clutch packs have a certain order, and not that they don't really matter anymore because you're welding everything together, but I'm going to try to keep them in the same order, same orientation, whatever, just that way, like I said before, it will keep the preload on the gears. So I'm going to do the best I can just to keep everything where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna mark the case half just somewhere because why not put everything back how I found it, right? So little line there, little line there, and then let's do a double line here. And a double line there. All right, there you go. Okay, carrier housing is split, and this is how we're looking. You can see, oh, that's not a good example. Right there. Like some welding slag that dripped down in and got on this clutch pack. So I'm gonna try to get that off because don't need that breaking loose and getting all up in here later, but give you guys a up close view of my tacks. So there, and then down there's one, same there and there. So top and bottom on all 3 sides. I haven't tried to lift it out yet, but just wanted you guys to see this. This is what it looks like splitting the case, and I'm going to keep all that in the same order here. Cool. Think it. Okay, I mean, they all came out in one piece, which is the goal. All this welding slag and grit down in there. Gonna want to make sure that's out before I put everything back together. But cool. Guess I gotta degrease this some more, and then we will turn that into one nice hot molten piece of gear. Alrighty, well, I'm pretty happy with that. I have both the insides of the case, the carrier case, I'm gonna call it, pretty clean. There was a ton of slag in there, so that took me a minute, But good old chipping hammer to scrape away the slag, brake cleaner. I'm good at that. About ready to start welding this. And I've seen videos or seen guys in the past put a piece of metal or washers or something in that gap just to help kind of, one, shove another piece of something in there to lock the gears together and also give more surface to weld on. So I like that idea. So I started looking around, didn't really have a washer to fit. Went over to my scrap pieces, and from my flat bar bender project, this is, I think, 3/8 thick, just beefy steel. And so I just cut these 3 pieces out. I got to do some trimming because it's not quite fit, but as you can see, I can shove that in there, get that behind the gear, and then this is plenty thick enough that with the welder cranked up, I won't melt through this and blow through, and I can just turn this into a nice glowing goop of metal. All right, so we have everything melted together, one piece. This is still quite warm, but as you can see, those chunks that I shoved in there gave all that surface area to weld around to. I got the gears welded and tacked on the side. Wanted to make sure I didn't like protrude too much. That way it could fit in there with no problem. So tried to get those to really sink in, but everything is one solid piece, ton of weld. That is not going anywhere. This will never break, and I will just start breaking other stuff on that before this ever gives away. Oh, there it is. Okay. Double mark. Double mark. Google says to put some Loctite on these, so I'm going to just use some medium strength Loctite. These need to be 90 foot-pounds. Okay. Again, our two case halves match our marks. Everything looks seated. Bolts have Loctite. All right, so I just struggled to get this in, but it's in there. I have the driver's side bearing cap on, but the passenger side off because I was talking to a buddy of mine, Matt, and he said, you know, I told him I couldn't get those torqued. So he said, get it in the carrier, and then once it's in here, torque them. That way the gear is held in place by the pinion gear, which, again, I'm too dumb to think of stuff like that, but that's smart. So I marked that one because I just torqued that one to 90. And doing it by myself is going to suck because I got to torque one, put the transmission in neutral, rotate it, put transmission in gear, torque one, so on and so forth. So I marked the first one. I'm going to work my way around and torque them all until I get back to my yellow dot. And then I can put the bearing caps on. So yeah, that's how I'm going to get these bolts torqued to 90 foot-pounds. Let's do it. Okay. That is, what is that? 2, 4, 6, 8 of them? Whatever it is. They are all now torqued to 90. So I feel much better about that. And with that, I can get the bearing cap back on this side. Again, our marks that we made, ensuring that the bearing cap goes on same side and it's in the same orientation top and bottom. Did say that those are 80 foot-pounds. Okay, torqued. Carrier housing bolts torqued to 90. Bearing caps torqued to 80. I like it. I dig it. I dig it. Getting somewhere. Move on to the axle shafts here. There's the seal there. You guys doing it, make sure to check your seal, make sure there's no nicks. Put some white lithium grease, and then I'm going to do some more blue Loctite on all these bolts, and then each of these get torqued to 80 foot-pounds. So I'm going to do that at both sides, and then we'll do, before we seal it up and put oil in it, we'll do the test and make sure that both tires spin the same direction when they're off the ground. So let's check it out. Before we seal it up, I want to make sure that everything is engaged right. So I didn't do the test prior to taking everything apart, but with an open differential, if both rear wheels are in the air and you spin one forward, the other one should spin in reverse. Now that it's locked, once I get this up in the air, both tires should spin in the same direction when I spin it. So cross our fingers here and make sure that it actually does that. Oh yeah. That right there is locked. Sweet. This project is almost done. All right. I now have a rear locker that works and will always work permanently. Bye-bye turning radius. But hell, I'd rather Austin power it on the trail and have traction than not be able to get up obstacles and not have traction. So, all right, one last look at our nice welded spider gears in there. And overall, I'm pretty dang happy with how that came out. So just kind of scraped and cleaned the surface here of the housing. I'm going to do the same to the diff cover and then some gasket and fill her with fluid. Cool. Diff cover's back on. The gasket is cured. I let it cure overnight. A little bit warmer today, so that helped. And yeah, all that's left is to put oil in it. But I'm not going to bore you guys with that. You don't need to see me dump 4 quarts of gear oil into a differential. So with that, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a quick, fun, and now we have traction. So I'm happy. Can't wait to test it. Unfortunately, I can't test it in this video because I got some other stuff I'm working on before I can take it on the trails. I have my PRPs from the Project Jeep, and I have the seats yanked out of this with some motorboat parts waiting to get installed. So with that, you'll see that in the next video. So make sure to stick along as we continue to get this thing ready for Trail Hero and the wheeling season. So the faster we get this done, the sooner I can get back to work on that YJ. I appreciate you guys sticking along. Get out, work on your Jeeps, and weld your diffs. All right, have a good night, everyone. See you in the next video.